Hello everyone and welcome to Comic Book Click. This is Glazer of Snap Judgments, and today we're going to be breaking down Nightmare with 4 top decks for the new card that's out in Marvel Snap right now. For anyone who doesn't know what Nightmare is a 3-1, and when you see that stat line you should recognize immediately that we're going to have an incredibly powerful effect. The on reveal that this new Series 5 card has is replace the text of each card in your hand with the text from a random card of the same cost. What that means is it's not changing the whole card, it's just changing the text box. So you're going to keep, if you have a 3-1, you're going to get a 3-1 with different text. So your Wolfsbane could be a Silver Surfer, for example, but it'll still be a 3-1. What that means is what we're looking for this card is cards with specifically low cost and high power. There's already an archetype that does that. It's the Sauron archetype, so that's going to be one of the first places we look, but there's so much more to this card. We're going to tell you all about it this video. But this is our first video here on this channel, so if anyone is unfamiliar with me, I am SnapJudgeGlazer, also known as BlueSky, on YouTube, SnapJudgeGlazer, on Twitch, BlueSky. I release a video every single day for Marvel Snap, and once a week I'm going to be doing a new card preview right here on this channel as soon as the card comes out. We're going to get you the best decks for the new card from the best players, much like on my regular channel and my regular videos. I get you the best decks before the meta has adjusted to them. The best decks from the best players. That's our MO here, so hopefully if you find value in that, you subscribe here, and you go check out my YouTube and Twitch as well. All right, let's talk some Nightmare synergies. So first of all, I think he's too good, like almost certainly. So what I want you to consider is that if you play this card and snap, your opponent doesn't know what you have, right? You could have an Infinite that's also a Galactus. You could have anything. They have no way of knowing. It's so extremely hard to stand against this card. That's why this has this extreme negative stat line, right? There's no real way to counter this, so that extremely negative stat line is the only way to really balance this card. A 3-1 is obviously a very, very, very big hit. The only other cards that are comparable are the Hood, which gives us a 1/6, which is a ridiculously ahead of rate 1-drop, and of course Mr. Negative, which is a whole deck and archetype. Sauron was nerfed, so this could exist. If both Sauron and this existed in the same deck, we'd have some real problems. Previous Sauron used to hit your hand and your deck. Now it only hits your deck. Nightmare only hits your hand, so they sort of work in a complementary way. But if Sauron still hits your hand and deck, and if you miss Sauron, you could just play Nightmare, I think that would just definitely be too good. That nerf happened in advance to get ready for this. Welcome back to Red Skull decks. Not that they've been anywhere. I'm not sure that Nightmare is going to go in the Scar version of Red Skull decks, which have been meta. We'll talk about one of those later, because Scar being changed into another 7 is very bad for that deck, and Nightmare can thus be a problem. Obviously, you can choose not to play Nightmare in those instances, but if you build a whole deck around Nightmare, you would generally like to play it. We will see if Scar ends up the right home for it, but Red Skull decks are definitely back. The best targets in terms of just getting numbers: Red Skull, Typhoid Mary, Atuma, Crossbones, Call Obsidian. Looks like a bunch of those are one deck, right? Starbrand, hey, same deck. Infinite seems amazing. Destroyer seems pretty good. Giganto, obviously, being able to be played anywhere. A nice 6/16 Galactus, a nice 6/16 Doctor Doom seems really nice. Lizard, Maximus, first Ghost Rider. Those are less good hits, but you're perfectly happy to hit them. Gladiator isn't a huge hit, but hey, that ability can be a negative. And then, of course, Agatha frickin' Harkness. And, of course, we're going to have an Agatha deck for you. If we can change Agatha's text to any other 6-drop, we're really cooking with gas. Thunderbolt Ross and Surtur seem very happy here. Thunderbolt Ross, you do want to get cards in your hand, specifically 10 power cards in your hand to hit with this card, so Ross seems really good. I think Surtur is going to be very happy because now we've got all these 10s in a deck. Surge and Taboo aren't exactly sad because a lot of these cards end up costing 4, and Black Knight is also going to love this. We're going to look at some more cards that really like this throughout the video. Again, I just want to be completely serious that if you play this card and you think you have anything good coming of it, or you think you can chase off your opponent, this is in and of itself a snap condition. Any card that is that hard to predict is a snap condition, as your opponent will be forced to stay and give you extra cubes as you're able to drop things that they cannot possibly anticipate. It's like an in-hand Arishem effect for only the strongest cards in the game. My serious advice, however, though, is to not buy this card immediately, even though I'm going to tell you how great it is all video. I think this card is genuinely going to be great and genuinely going to be meta. However, much like every human being around, I am often wrong. Sometimes I think I'm very sure of something, and it turns out not to be true. That is the human condition. That is the condition, especially in predicting Marvel Snap cards. Everyone thought the original War Machine would be great, and he just wasn't. Everyone thinks numerous cards are going to be absolutely stellar, and they don't always end up that way. So please wait. If you check my regular channel, please note the previous slide, SnapJudgeGlazer Pod, I will be reviewing this card like 3 more times, along with a bunch of top players. Once it's in our hands, I'll be streaming a bunch of games with it with these decks tonight to make sure I'm right. Once I'm right, if I'm even close to right about how powerful this is going to be a must-own card for anyone for whom this is the deck archetype and style that they would enjoy. All right, so Nightmare. First thing I did with this card is I know one player who has a 30 Sauron Mastery. His name is Xenaid. We'll see his Twitch handle in a moment. He's a top player in Marvel Snap, a streamer, and he's just absolutely excellent. His opinion is that this is going to be the cards that absolutely always want to be in a Nightmare deck. Sauron as a way to get rid of multiple, like, it's sort of your backup plan. It'll hit Ebony Maw, Starbrand, Red Skull. Those are the 3 you're really trying to hit. Zero as your other backup plan. Merlin, because then you can turn the actual Nightmare card into something better. You can either use it for extra energy to play more stuff, or you can use Nightmare to become a 4 cost, and basically every 4 cost in the game is better than a 3 -1. And then, of course, Starbrand and Red Skull are big. It is his opinion that this is going to be the deck, and so we're going to start with the Xenaid deck. Xenaid's Nightmare deck is going to go in with the Annihilus idea. He's unsure if Typhoid Mary should be Sentry. Initially, we will obviously test both. This is obviously a theory craft. As such, this does, however, seem very strong. This is running that package that he thinks is the core and trying to fill in around it with cards like Surge in order to help fit things, and then some extra 10 drops in order to have some more power. You can find Xenaid on Twitch at twitch.tv/XenaidTFT. We need Nightmare, Starbrand, and Merlin for this list. Those are your required high series cards. That is 2 Series 5 cards in a Season Pass, which is expensive, but not impossibly so. Surge can be Zaboon. Cull can be Crossbones or Sentry. Those are your 2 changes. Again, 2 Series 3 cards to replace the Series 5. Sentry may also just be better than Typhoid. Again, that's going to have to be tested. And we're generally trying to use a spell on Nightmare, even if it's not the turn after we want to find a time to use Nightmare. All right, so the Hood is here in combination with Annihilus. The Hood gives as -3 to the opponent's side. That's a free green goblin and you get a 5/8, and it gives you a demon to play. All of those things are obviously very powerful. You obviously don't want to play, unless you have the Annihilus you draw after, you don't want to play a Nightmared Hood. That's fine, but you can easily turn that Hood into a 2-drop, which is perfectly viable. Most 2-drops are every 2-drop is going to be a better hit, more or less, than a 1 -3. Sauron is here as a backup way. We don't have room for Enchantress to take care of Starbrand, Typhoid, and Red Skull. You don't really want those negative effects. Those are 3, and sorry, Ebony Maw. Those are very, very bad negative effects, and Sauron gives you a way to take care of them at a decent stat rate. 0 is your other way to take care of those cards. Nice and simple. Surge can make cards cheaper. This is a fairly expensive deck, and you don't want to whiff too much. Surge has the ability to get Cull Obsidian down to 3, Typhoid down to 3, so on, is very strong. Merlin is here to largely change some negative cards into positive ones. If we don't see the exact cards we need, turning Typhoid Mary, for example, into a 5-drop, turning Nightmare into a 4-drop, turning the Hood into a 2-drop, all of those are really great. We can also use the Hood, Sauron, or Zero to get extra energy, which is a very powerful place to live as well, having that extra energy. The location change is nice, but sort of more incidental in this deck than in many others. Nightmare is the deck, right? We want to hit Starbrand, Cull. We want to hit basically every card except Annihilus in the row above him and Ebony Maw. So we want to hit Starbrand, Cull, Typhoid, Red Skull, and Ebony Maw. Those are our main goal to hit. We'll obviously end up hitting some other stuff fairly often, but that's totally fine. He can be a snap condition as always. Starbrand here is going to be a 3/10. You should be playing him after 0 after Nightmare. You don't want to play him and keep his negative ability intact, so keep that in mind. Cull Obsidian has technically 4, but Ebony Maw doesn't really count, but 4 because Demon does count. 1-drops that it can be played over. It's obviously an incredible card in that way, and also a card you're happy to Nightmare. Same concept for Typhoid Mary, except it can be played anywhere. You don't want to play it and deal with its negative, only if Nightmared, Sauron, zeroed. Annihilus sends over that Hood, and potentially if Sentry is over Typhoid, it could do that as well. And then, of course, we have Red Skull, who at a 5/14 is just some 6-drop top-line stats. I think 2 6-drops in the game, 3 6-drops in the game have better base stats than 5/14. Infinite, Destroyer, and Giganto are the only 3. So Red Skull gives you top line stats, the same stats as Agatha, at a 5-drop that obviously would not have a downside if Nightmare or Sauron. Let's go turn by turn, and my basic theory for this is trust the expert. If there's one Sauron expert in the game, it is Zen. Alright, so Sauron over Hood if Merlin, over 0 if Maw, and no 2-drop. Turn 2, we want Merlin over Surge. We can also play 0 for Starbrand if we don't have those. Our general goal on turn 3 is to Nightmare. We can also go 2+1. Surge can let you drop a Cull Obsidian or other big card as well. Turn 4, we want Nightmare plus Spell, or whichever 4 after Nightmare or Sauron takes away their abilities. If you haven't taken away abilities yet, we might be looking at running to a Snap, but we're also likely to play Cull still here. Turn 5, Annihilus or Red Skull, and then turn 6, Annie or Red Skull plus Demon or Maw. At that point, you're fairly likely to win because everything you're playing is well ahead of rate in terms of stats. You're not running tech cards because Nightmare will ruin that anyway. But hey, sometimes your Cull Obsidian and Typhoid Mary are going to be like Enchantress or Shang-Chi as well. So like there is that to the deck. It's kind of wild how much power this one puts out for the metagame. If you enjoy this style of deck guide, we're going to do it for 3 more different decks this video, and we do this for 4 new decks every single day over on my channel, so keep an eye out for that. Make sure as you're here, you hit that sub, like, and comment. Your like and comment will enter you to win a PAX code. If you don't know what that is, I'll explain it in this video. Just hit that sub for now and make sure you're already in. Next up, we have the next Nightmare deck. This is my take on the classic Sauron list. We're not doing anything fancy here. I just wanted to run all the numbers I could. What numbers can I run? It was the only question I really asked myself, although I did have to cut Ebony Maw here, and I ended up not being able to run Merlin, because I think Surtur is probably going to be an absolute monster here. Obviously, Surtur's not great if you hit Nightmare, but you don't hit Nightmare every game, and sometimes you do hit Sauron. So Surtur can still give me a lot of stats. This is the deck that often ran Scar, and I had to cut Scar from. We'll see if Scar ends up being worthwhile overall. I created this version, but this is based on the work of both Xenaid, the aforementioned, and Alexander Isaac on Twitch, who created the more recent, the pre-recent Sauron nerf version of this deck. This deck needs Nightmare, Cull, and Starbrand. Reasonably expensive. This one does actually need Cull. Surtur can be Merlin or Ebony Maw. You can try to fit in a Tuma in a spot, maybe even over Cull, but I think there's too much stuff to destroy, although Cull does give you another way to handle Nightmare. This deck is just going to keep the Nightmare as a negative, though. What it wants to do is get some stuff cheaper using Zebu and Surge. In particular, we're trying to get our 4-drops to 3. If we can get a couple of 4-drops to 3, our last turn is incredibly powerful, especially if we can get an Enchantress and then a Cull or a Crossbones to 3, we're cooking with gas. Sauron gets rid of negative effects, and again, the negative effects here, in particular, that we want to get rid of our Starbrand, Typhoid, and Red Skull. Those are the 3 big ones. No Sauron, no Nightmare, we use 0. Surge is our second ramp card. Nightmare turns all of our really negative abilities into hopefully better ones. There's occasionally going to be one where you don't want to hit right, like your Red Skull is going to end up hitting a Hobgoblin sometimes when you Nightmare, where it could end up hitting a Modok. And you have the choice to play that card or not at that point, right? You can still play it on the last turn in a lane you know your opponent's going to fill and do stuff like that to win the game. Surtur's a scalar. Look at the sheer number of 10s here. Starbrand is the cheapest 10 in the game, so we run that. Enchantress takes care of negative abilities if we couldn't otherwise. If we hit it with Nightmare, obviously it doesn't do that, but if we hit it with Nightmare, we hopefully don't have negative abilities. Crossbones is sort of win more, but still totally fine, especially with Nightmare, when it can be many other cards. Cull Obsidian, as long as we're running 3 1s, we're happy to have it. Plus, again, Nightmare, we've been over this. Typhoid, same concept. Red Skull, same concept. I'm not going to repeat myself 15 times. You get the idea. I trust you, my smart audience. So the core of this is already a top deck. Turn 1, we want Zebu is more or less equal to Sauron. You're going to have to look at your deck. If all your 4s are in deck, you're probably going to want Zebu. If all of your big hits are in deck for Sauron and you don't have Nightmare, you're going to want a Sauron. If your stuff is in hand and you have Nightmare, then you can just wait in Nightmare. You'll be fine. Turn 2, Surge over a 1-drop, although sometimes like you'll go Zebu into Sauron or Sauron to Zebu if the draws are exactly right for that. Turn 3, Nightmare on Surtur. Generally speaking, we want Nightmare unless we already Sauroned all the good Nightmare targets, and Surtur is perfectly fine. We can also play Starbrand if we played 0 previously or hit it with Sauron. Turn 4 is a 4/10. Turn 5 is either Red Skull or a 3+2, and that 2 would generally be Surge, or then we can drop a Zebu, Sauron, whatever. And then Enchantress and a big card are our last play. Cool. This one is just pure points. It's saying, I'm going to mess with you with points. This deck has been one of the top win rate decks in Marvel Snap. I believe Second Dinner noted that it was about the 3rd highest win rate deck in Marvel Snap before the Sauron nerf, and it's continued to produce at the top of the meta since then. A lot of top meta players don't like playing the style because it's very straightforward, but if you want a straightforward deck to climb with, this is about where I'd be looking. hey, come check out a stream. I will be streaming the new card Nightmare with these 4 decks first, and then anything else I could find tonight at twitch.tv/BlueSky. And if you'd like to get a PAX code, make sure you are following right here at Comic Book Click. Like and comment that you want the PAX code, and just say anything you want about the video and your thoughts overall in order to win that PAX code. A PAX code is an exclusive code that you can get at PAX. PAX is a big gaming convention thing. How this works is fundamentally, if you win, I send you a code. That code gives you an exclusive Miles Morales variant, an exclusive card back, and an exclusive border. Cool. These are still relatively rare. A lot of the community are looking for them. If you want one, this is your chance to get one for free. Also, don't forget to check out tonight's stream. Next up, we got BK Nightmare. BK Nightmare is one that was put together by our friend Den Hearthstone. I made one change. I don't even remember what that change is, to be perfectly honest. Oh, I put Thunderbolt Ross in for Lizard, so feel free to make that Lizard again if you want. But this one feels really, really good to me. Black Knight has been having a bit of a renaissance in the meta. Our friends Father Snap and Tucker, well, technically Dragon, made the Tucker deck, have all been playing really, really great Black Knight decks that have been competing even in tournaments. So this is a great way to really bring that back with the new card. The creator of this deck is Den, the head writer over at Marvel Snap Zone. I also write at Marvel Snap Zone. It is the home of the best written Marvel Snap content. This deck needs Black Knight, War Machine, and Nightmare. Those 3 are non-negotiable. These Nightmare decks are not cheap, but they're also not running 50 different expensive things. Thunderbolt Ross can be Surge out of Warlock. Also Lizard, which I replaced in the list. All right, so Black Knight is here. So you've got sort of Black Knight to discard a card using Blade or Lady Sif. If you get the Shard, you're happy to have a 4 whatever, 14, 16, 20 that can't be destroyed. You can then Ghost Rider that card back, the original card you discarded back, for extra power. Be a little careful with Red Skull. You don't always want to Ghost Rider back a Red Skull, but the Ghost Rider itself makes up for the power you're giving away with Red Skull more or less. Blade is one of your 2 discard outlets, along with Lady Sif, in order to get those big cards out. Lady Sif will make sure you hit Giganta or Infinite, which you would rather hit than Red Skull for obvious reasons. Sauron takes away negative abilities. In this case, that is Ebony Maw, Red Skull. That's it. It's a nice card to have access to, but it's not terribly important here. Thunderbolt Ross means that we actually have the cards to discard. The cards that we want to hit with Nightmare, not having those cards kind of sucks. And Thunderbolt Ross gives us directly the cards we want to hit, which is really powerful. Nightmare is here for Ebony Maw. It's here for Red Skull, Giganta, and Infinite. That's it, nice and simple. It should give you a ton of power with any of those cards. Be a little careful with your Ghost Rider if you've discarded something. You can play Nightmare a bit later, but you'll be fine that way. We've talked about Sif and Ghost Rider. If you don't see a lot of your combo stuff, War Machine can still give you a way to win the game, as you can just drop an Infinite at the end of the game, and that's often going to be backbreaking to opponents. Red Skull is keyword big. It is a card you mostly want to play if you can get rid of its negative ability in one of the 2 ways, but hey, it's also a really good way to make an Ebony Shard. Giganto, 616 is stats we're happy to have, and then of course Infinite is absolutely amazing with Nightmare and the best target to discard with Black Knight. So turn 1, Black Knight is more or less equal to Sauron. Those 2 cards are of equivalent power and value at the beginning of the game, depending on what's in the deck. Turn 2, you will play a turn 1 card over Ross. Those 2 cards are too important to get out. Turn 3, Lady Sif or Nightmare. Sif if you've got the right stuff, if you've got Black Knight out, if you've got the Ghost Rider. If not, you can just Nightmare and say, I'll just play it clean. Turn 4, War Machine or Ghost Rider Shard. 5 is the same thing as 4, but we can also play Red Skull of Nightmare. And then turn 6 is some combo of Shard, Rider, and Giganto. Sometimes Infinite if you hit it with Nightmare. This one seems really cool to me too. I think there's a lot of power to this. When Den cooks, he really cooks. Den creates a lot of decks, and when his decks are great, they tend to be really, really great. He's one of the most knowledgeable people about both the meta and card games in general in the world, so it's always worth paying attention to his ideas. We have a Patreon if you're interested in checking it out, patreon.com/snapjudgments. Check it out if you want to see the perks and are interested in the channel and supporting us some more. Don't feel any pressure to, but hey, I needed something to break up these 2 sections, and I figured this was a decent way. Finally, we've got our Agatha list. This is from our friend, the White Wayne Brady. You might not know White Wayne Brady. He's not a content creator. However, he is a mod in basically half the content creators in the game's chats. On the latest Golden Gauntlet, Marvel Snap's a big tournament. White Wayne Brady was a mod in that chat. He is also a known Agatha lover. He plays a lot of top players all the time using Agatha meme decks and beats them. So when I knew I needed an Agatha deck, what I did was I went and messaged the White Wayne Brady. This deck needs only 2 cards, Black Knight and Nightmare. This is our most budget, Black Knight being a Series 4 and Nightmare being the new Series 5. This is our most budget way to get into a Black Knight list. Sorry, a Nightmare list. All right, ready? Black Knight. is here because sometimes we're going to discard Agatha, sometimes we're going to discard Red Skull, sometimes we're going to discard Infinite. Hell, we can even discard Crossbones. If we do that, getting an Infinity Shard for it is pretty damn good. Yes, we only have one discard outlet, but Black Knight is perfectly fine and cheap enough to run. Brady insists that Shocker is the secret tech that is required for these decks. The logic here is that Agatha is always in the spot to be hit by Shocker. So how that works is if you miss out on Agatha, and you get lucky enough, you can just play Agatha on turn 5 and then have control of your own turn 6. Is that going to happen? No. But if your opponent doesn't snap and you can get that play line going, it works. Agatha is always in hand, so Nightmare will always change it to another 6. There are no worse 6s than Agatha, although obviously you don't want to hit things like Destroyer or Infinite, but hey, there's enough good hits there for that. Nightmare also has the ability to make Red Skull and Crossbones better cards, and give High Evolutionary some new text. All of that is generally positive. Lady Sif, again, our one discard outlet for Agatha. It could sometimes hit Infinite, so be forewarned. It's also can also be make a shard and be brought back by Ghost Rider. All that's good. Wave is our last way to get rid of Agatha. I guess technically Shocker is the last way, right? We'd much rather Nightmare or Lady Sif than Wave, but if we don't have Nightmare, we have Lady Sif and Wave, and then we have Agatha and Infinite. At that point, we're fairly often going to Wave, and so Agatha will just play herself the next turn, especially if there's not a location that blows her up immediately. From there, Ghost Rider we've talked about. War Machine gives us that extra way to play Infinite at the end of the game. So there are going to be games where you go Shocker, you get lucky, and Infinite is turn 4. And then you can go with Agatha on turn 5 and Infinite on turn 6. You'll have to see it. War Machine also means that you can play Crossbones anywhere. You can play Infinite at any point. Both really useful. Evolutionary's here just for Shocker. I was convinced this was wrong. Brady insists, and he's got the experience. I'm going to trust experience. Crossbones, good stats. And it's also nice because Agatha can't play it unless you're ahead, so you can sort of control that in that way a little bit on your turn 3 play. Red Skull is a 5 big, largely played for the Shard or if Nightmare. Agatha Nightmare target, that also thins your deck. And then, of course, the 520 biggest thing in the game. So, turn 1, we want Black Knight. Turn 2, Agatha plays. Ideally, Shocker. Turn 3, Nightmare or Sif, over Wave. Turn 4, if Agatha is gone, Crossbones or War Machine. If you played Wave, Agatha plays herself. If not, then Agatha's going to do whatever, right? So let's hope for the best. Turn 5, Ghost Rider, Red Skull, or 4-drop. We can play Agatha if Shocker made it happen. Then turn 6, we're looking for Infinite or Red Skull, i.e. we're playing the biggest stats we got left. I'm excited to play an Agatha deck for the first time in Marvel Snap. I don't know what else to say. All right, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoy Snap Judgments. Hopefully you check out my channel. Hopefully you subscribe here, and you come back every single Tuesday where we will break down the new card coming to Marvel Snap in detail with 4 decks for you from top players. If you want the best decks for the newest cards, this is where you need to sub, and I'll see you next week, hopefully sooner, but at latest next week right here. Peace.